Interesting to consider the 2-minute warning about when violence occurs, right? Might be good to stop yourself for a moment before one reacts right away to situations we don't like. I said that Mahavir basically said that to lead a simple life, to practice celibacy, and to practice ahimsa. Well, there are really 5 necessary vows for spiritual liberation. And those 5 vows are the practice of ahimsa, as we just said. It is also the practice of chastity or celibacy. And then there are 3 more, which is satya, that you're always truthful, asteya, that you do not steal, and aparigama, which is non-attachment. Jains follow the Jain agamas, and you have 2 different schools there. One are called the Svetambara, and the other ones are the Digambars. Svetambara actually means the white-clad people. They wear white clothing. Svetambaras believe that women and men can achieve enlightenment and moksha, or even nirvana. Svetambaras are making sure to always wear masks, right? It's just like we have now during the coronavirus, we have to wear our masks. But it's not like they're not doing it because of coronavirus, right? They're doing it so that to prevent any kind of flies or insects to fly into your mouth, because you would kill them if they did so, right? They might also have a little broom with which they will clear the floor in front of you so that you do not by accident step on any kind of insect or kill an animal by accident. By the way, a seriously practicing Jain would also not drive a car, right? Because driving the car would be violence against nature. Think about how many bugs are dying on the windshield or the front part of the car, right? It is also using oil, for example, that was extracted from the earth, which wasn't really originally yours, right? Jains, strictly practicing Jains, might not travel by air either. Imagine how many birds are killed usually when planes take off or fly through the air. It's a lot of killing that occurs in the middle of that, so Jains would not use a plane, for example. Digambara means sky-clad or naked. So the men in Digambara are basically naked. They are the ones who practice Jainism to the very final conclusion, actually. Seems like a difficult thing, right? How do you practice all those things? Especially the part of the celibacy. Think about that for a moment. How would Jainism continue to exist if everybody was chaste and would not have any children, for example? Well, nope, everybody has to go into practicing it 100%, right? Many Jains, also Jains that I know, they have families, for example, they have children. So obviously celibacy has not been practiced there. They live lives within the modern society and do things like you and I would normally do. You wouldn't necessarily know from the outside that somebody is a Jain. But most Jains would be either vegetarians or vegans. Most Jains would not wear any leather, for example. Most Jains would not wear certain things like silk, for example. You can't wear silk because it's coming from the silkworm, right? You do not eat honey, for example, because did the bee give you permission to take the honey? So it would be violence against the bee to just steal the honey that she's worked for so hard. Some people might even say, well, I understand that you cannot eat meat, for example, because or fish or anything that you would have to kill something for in order to eat that. So that's why many people are vegans. Vegans also because you cannot just take an egg from a chicken. The chicken didn't lay it for you. It's meant to be there for little chicklets. You cannot make cheese or have milk, for example, because the cow didn't produce the milk for you. And by the way, being so many people being lactose intolerant, we know that the human body is really not built actually to eat or to drink milk, especially not from a different animal. But some people then say, well, but don't the plants also have an Atman or a soul? And Jains would say, yes, that is right. So you cannot eat any vegetable that you have to kill in order to eat it. So you can't eat any root vegetables, right? So you can't eat a carrot, for example, or a potato, or a radish, because these plants die when you eat them. Well, then what is it that you can eat, right? Well, I guess you can eat an apple, for example, when it's falling off the tree, right? You don't kill the tree, the apple tree, when you eat the apple and pick it up from the ground. That will be food for you to eat, right? Well, some Jains even say, no, you can't do that either, because when the apple falls on the ground, then it is intended to seed a new tree, right? And you would disrupt that cycle if you ate the apple. Well, but then what is left? How can you sustain yourself? How can you live? Well, interestingly, there is a doctrine, or there is a rite, that you can fast in Jainism until you die. And here we have a passage from Jain writings that talks about the fasting unto death. Talks about that this passage speaks of the Jaina practice of Idvara or Salekkhana, in which an advanced practitioner may voluntarily starve to death. This practice is said to eliminate large amounts of negative karma and may even lead to final liberation. According to legend, Mahavira himself did this, since he knew that he would be released at the end of this life, and that the fast unto death would be an effective means of eradicating the last subtle vestige of his karma. Generally, a monk will prepare for this practice through a graduated program of fasting that may last for 12 years, but if he is sick, he can begin the fasting without this previous training. In this passage, fasting to death is described as a difficult discipline, but the end reward is seen as a glorious culmination of one's spiritual training. That's the introduction, right? And now comes the text itself. That's kind of amazing, right? It is the final test not to be attached even to your own life. And I had people always wonder, well, isn't fasting to death yourself violence against yourself? Well, the Jain would answer no, because you're not actually killing anything. You will continue living. The soul is immortal, right? The soul does not die. So when it is released from the body, it is still alive, and especially when it is in liberation after achieving nirvana, what could be better than that? And the body itself, while it even disintegrates at that point, the matter of it does not leave the universe either. It is still around. So it's not violence in the eyes of Jain people. Watch this next video, the last video, which shows the practice of Idvara. It's an old woman who is practicing this and is dying in the process. Again, if it's hard for you to watch someone dying, then skip that video. But if you have the gut to watch it, see what it's like to practice Idvara.